What's up, beautiful people? Hope everybody's having a good day. Sorry, a few minutes late. One of these days, it's kind of hard because I would like to go live on a clear vision. So my phone is probably clearer than my laptop. And I also have a speaker that will give me more clear audio because I do upload these eventually to YouTube. And I kind of want to just repurpose some of this information. But it turns out that it's hard to like try to figure it out without going live or triggering the live. So it's hard to do it anytime before this moment. So my apologies. I'm gonna get it together. We're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna ask for some help at some point here pretty soon. So if any of y'all are savvy with Zoom, with lives, especially in groups, hit me up. I could use your help. I'm willing to barter here, give a 30-minute call with your daughter or something like that. So if somebody is familiar or knows how to do that, let me know so that way I can get better at this so we can have a more cohesive situation happening here. But happy Tuesday. So glad all of you are here with us today joining. Today was a good day. We went ahead and won our game against I guess they say the Battle of the Bay between Norfolk today by 1 run. It was definitely a back and forth game. I think Norfolk has a great foundation, both new coaches in a program trying to figure it out. And, last time they won at our home. And so we had to, of course, pay them back at their home. And so we were able to pull it through. So it's been a great day. I had a one-on-one call after that. And yeah, man, just staying busy, getting after it. So super grateful for the opportunity to now come on and spend a little bit of time with each of you all. So, what I would like to do is answer a few questions that I received. As always, if there are other questions that you have, let me know. Put in the chat. If anything sparks some questions from you after we have more of a deeper conversation, also let me know. Put it in the chat so that way I can answer your questions. Again, just super excited to be here with y'all today, and we'll jump right in. So one of the questions that I received, I thought was a really good question. And the question was, first of all, I was really excited to get this message because this particular mom is awesome at asking questions. And she asked a lot of questions, and then she eventually got her daughter into my 360 athlete program. We meet monthly, me and her daughter individually, and then she's also in the group as well. And she's a junior, and so her clock is definitely ticking. But I was excited to receive the message, and the message basically said, my daughter has been receiving responses from coaches, and if I can't tell you anything else, that is the greatest news that I could ever hear from a parent, especially as a junior, especially in our seasons when parents say, my daughter is receiving responses from coaches. So, first of all, celebrate that person. Congratulations to you and your family for just working the system. I would say this athlete has been really diligent with posting on social media and doing all the things that I've asked her to do. And all I can say is if, the roadmap, it's not clear, but at least the opportunity to do something in the roadmap will help them be successful. And so this athlete has been posting videos. They've been doing stuff on their own. They've been emailing coaches. They've been, again, updating their social media so that it syncs with a coach that, like, if a coach looks at their social media, they can see a little bit about her. So she's already doing some of the things and working a lot of the magic. So super proud of her. But the question specifically was that I'm receiving responses from coaches, and some of them are inviting us to camps, both on their campus, and then other coaches are saying, hey, I'm going to be at these tournaments, where it's more of a multi-purposed or more coaches at that specific facility. I'm going to be at these camps. And so, again, the response is really important because the hardest part in the recruiting process is getting the coach's attention. And so, most of us are struggling in the recruiting process because we can't or we don't have a way to get the coach's attention. We have not been able to successfully do that. So, the fact that she's getting responses is amazing. So, what I will say is the first part is be proud of that. The second part is now thinking about, are these schools that I'm interested in? And so this is going to be now a situation where we have to have conversations with our travel ball coaches on, especially as a junior, on when are these camps on their campuses, because I would recommend going to the camps that are on their campus as prospect camps. And I would say, if it's in the way of a tournament, we need to have the conversation with their coaches now. But I go back to the statement, which I said a way long time ago, is that the main point of travel ball is to get exposure for your athlete. So your coach, unfortunately, if they have, if you have it on a team that has 12 people on it, and it would really hurt them that you weren't there because maybe you were the only pitcher or the only catcher or the only shortstop. Shame on them. And that's not really, unfortunately, I had to say it, it's not your responsibility to be the only person that holds that position down, especially because you are trying to get exposure. Number one, you've gotten the exposure and then you've been invited to a camp. You must talk to the coach about getting you there. Okay. So I would say that first. The other thing I would say is, especially as a junior, I think the emphasis and the focus should be more on the camps on campuses versus the larger, just kind of free for all, large camps that are a part of tournaments. So hopefully I answered that question for you. But I think the biggest thing is, congratulations on getting the awareness, but also then, how do you maximize the on-campus experience, because you want to be in front of those coaches on their campus, experience their coaching style specifically. So if they are a coach that's on your list, make sure that you are staying on their radar as well. Okay. So great question. Super excited for this athlete. And I know like things are going to happen for her because she puts in the work and she does things really awesome. So that would be number one. The next question that I received, and again, those of you who are joining, thanks for joining, Beverly. Thanks for joining, Krista and Patrick. Good to see y'all on here today. I always, again, just like seeing people, who are here and, joining us live. Also, if you have any questions that come up for you when I answer questions, definitely let me know. Answer the questions. I'm here to, or ask the questions. I'm here to help answer them. So the second question I got is, if my player doesn't play for a big name travel team or league, but is a great athlete, pretty athletic, and a great hitter, how likely is it to get her a D1 or D2, get her to a D1 or D2 college? Let's see. And so I think hey Stevie, what's up, girl? I think the first thing is first. And I think I would probably want to know a little more details about why she's on a smaller team, and then also what age she is. I think these things matter in this question. So let me just give you some scenarios. So some of us are from smaller towns and smaller teams, and if you're unable to get to the schools that she's interested in, for their camps, then the tournaments are really important. And I would say there are nowadays a lot of Facebook groups where people are always looking for pickup players. I think you're going to have to do what you can to gain the exposure. So what is the role of a travel team? And then what is the role of the tournaments that they attend? Okay, so if we ask ourselves those questions, we have to figure out, am I putting my athlete in the best position to be successful in those environments? So what is the role of a travel team? Okay. It is to develop your athlete, to create competitive environments for your athlete, to make your athlete have to compete for a spot, because hopefully she's on a team that has more than 14 girls, because when they get to college, they're going to have a team of 20 to 25 players. So the experience that they get from travel ball is super valuable and super important to their ability to be their best self. So if she's in a smaller team, and their team does not have, 15 plus people, I think she has to find ways to find in competitive environments. Okay. The second role of a travel ball team is to put your athlete in position to compete against athletes who are also playing high level or want to play high level. So the tournaments that they go to are then also very important because, number one, when you're in college, right, you're playing against everybody who is competitive and everybody who's tough. And so if we don't flex the muscle or build the muscle when they're younger in travel ball, then we're not setting our athletes up for success. So again, what tournaments then am I going to? The other side of travel ball that's really important is the exposure, is the opportunity to be seen by college coaches. And if your daughter is on a smaller team and they are not in situations where travel or where college coaches are, I would honestly say she's probably going to have to find a team that she can at least pick up for in the summer, or at least find teams she could pick up for year round. I think there are excessive levels to this. When I lived on the West Coast, there were a lot of athletes who, not a lot, but there's a good amount of families that were like flying their daughters to play for teams in California. I'm not asking you to do that. I don't think that that's necessary. And people do it if they feel like that's their best chance. But I will say there has to be maybe 3-4 hour drives if I want to compete at a higher level, D1, D2, and be exposed to those type of coaches. You should also know this from the coach's perspective. Hey, Antonio, thanks for joining. You can also learn from a different perspective as a coach. We have limited budgets, and especially when it comes to recruiting, most times when we go out to tournaments, and to be honest, we get paid to be there. We get paid to watch your athlete. So when you're paying all those large travel ball fees, when you're paying all those large tournament fees, where you're paying the gate entrance fee, where you're paying to be a part of the camp and the All-Star game and all the things, it's mostly because they are paying coaches as well, and they pay usually for our sometimes for our flights, sometimes for us to sit and watch the games, sometimes depending on what level we are to coach the All-Star games. But they're also paying for our hotels, they're also paying for our food. So imagine the tournaments that you go to, why are they so expensive? It's partly because of that. And then they want to make a profit on top of that. But if you're going to, like, as a college coach, like, because they help offset the cost, you have to understand that like the perspective is that we're probably not going to go to many smaller camps that don't help with travel, that don't help with food, that don't help with hotels. And in some of those tournaments, we are not necessarily looking to recruit, but we do go and we happen to find athletes because we go, right? So, but if your athlete's on a smaller team and they don't even get to the tournaments where college coaches are, you're kind of setting them up for not the best success. So the overall question and answer is they got to get on a team, or at least pick up for a team that's going to have them in more or better situations to be recruited, okay, or to be seen, or at least to have exposure to college coaches. So if their small team is going to these tournaments, then that's the first step. But I think the second step of that is that you have to actually compete at those tournaments, because when you get a whole nother can of worms is when you get to those bigger tournaments and there's over 100 teams there. So no one's asked me that question yet, but I'm sure that'll come up after after people rewatch this one. But the question is then, how do I get the coach to come to my field, right? And so that's where the competitiveness of being on a larger, more competitive organization team that has, I would say, schedule pool. So what that means is there are some teams that the tournament knows are going to draw coaches. And so what they'll do is they'll put them together so that they draw coaches, right? And so what that also means then is they usually are competing in those games because they both are high level teams. And so I think when you have those high level teams and they're playing against each other, now you're putting your athlete in the space to be exposed. And usually, because they're a smaller team, if your daughter's on a smaller team, that's not always the case. That doesn't usually happen. So again, the higher level D1s, D2s, this is also a reason why you want to be able to get a part of those bigger teams. So I kind of went very long and round the way about that question, but I think it was valuable to have. Rasta, what's up? What's up, Brian? Jacqueline, what's happening? Thanks for joining. Thanks for throwing another question in there for me, Antonio. You're the real MVP. He always gives me extra questions. I won't hold y'all much longer, but how important is Twitter or Instagram for recruiting purposes? Is one better than the other? I love this question, and I've answered it before. First and foremost, yes and no. Okay. So the yes answer is when I am looking for a player, I will go to Twitter first. I will usually, that's just usually where a lot of the highlight reels, most of the players are on, most of the coaches are on Twitter as well. So most of the teams are on Twitter. So I will usually go to Twitter first. Um, and then for me, because I just know that some people like Instagram for different reasons, I will, if I don't find them on Twitter, I will go to Instagram. Now that's considered an extra step. So I think what one of my players does is just post on both. Okay. But in general, where I was going to say yes and no, in general, is they got to post somewhere, you know? And so I think if it's a matter of Twitter seems confusing or challenging or hard, Instagram seems easy, more relatable, post on Instagram, right? And I would say just post somewhere. Post your highlight videos, post your reels somewhere. And then I would also say if you can create more longer form videos or videos where they may be more like, let me see your at bats, things like that. Like, please don't show your at bats on Twitter, but give them the actual hit. But if you want to share more of a longer at bat, like, hey, I really worked through this, 0-2 count all the way back to a hit or a home run, post those in their YouTube channel. And so that's a whole nother level to this sort of space. But we'll talk more about that at some point. But I would say X is usually the first place that I go look as a college coach. It's a place where most of the college coaches go look. And then I would say for Instagram, it's easier, more relatable, more reliable. They do reels. It's kind of a nice place to watch. So, Andrina, what's up, girl? Patrick, got a question. How do I prepare my daughter mentally at 14U to compete for a high level team at 16U? Oh man, put her in the 360 athlete program. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a great question. And I'm going to end on this question today. But here's what I'll say. I think the biggest layer that I find athletes struggle with the most is knowing who they are and knowing what value they bring to the table and then knowing how to demonstrate that to college coaches. So, first and foremost, I think the opportunity for her to work with a mental performance coach, even there are some books out there, and we kind of go back and as mental performance coaches, we kind of go back and forth with recommending books because it's kind of the question, do you want to teach your daughter how to swim by reading a book or do you want her to have an instructor, right? And so there's kind of like that thing where it's like, I can recommend books to you and podcasts and all that. And I'll put them in the group chat or in the Facebook group for you guys. I'll give you some books there. But at the end of the day, if we can spend a lot of time helping her recognize what her strengths and values are, that's the first step to eliminating self-doubt, which then builds more confidence, which then allows them to want to go after what they're looking for and be more confident sharing that. I think having a coach to help them reframe their brains and their mind, overcoming failure, self-doubt, fear of even success. Those things are also things. Hey, Kimberly, thanks for joining. Those are things that I think would be helpful in that space. And like I said, I will recommend some books and podcasts in the Facebook group. But in general, this day and age, you have to find people who are outside of their coaches and you as parents to help them with sort of navigating that identity piece and their value piece. So get them a mental performance coach. Doesn't have to, I'm not asking you to hire me or anything like that, but having someone who can help reassure them of the value that they bring to the table, and then helping them reassure or figure out where there are some gaps and how they work through those gaps would be really important. So I will maybe go a little bit more in that maybe in a video later, but I think that's a good answer to a good question to kind of end on. I would say on the more physical side, actually, let me give you a little bit more. On the physical side, I think confidence comes from two places: self-talk and preparation. So the next part of this is the game gets faster. You have to have more game IQ. At the 16U level, you have to be willing to have tough skin. You have to be willing to want to fight for a position. So, Patrick, what I would say is, can you put her in environments where she has to do those things and she might suck at it at first? So, put her in situations where she has to kind of maybe be faster with her transfers, right? Put her in situations where she's competing against higher level teams, which you're already getting ready to do. Put her in spaces where, even on the pitching machine, like make the speed go higher, like things like that, where she has to kind of compete and fail, but keep competing. If we can get her mindset to be like to realize like keep going, even though I'm failing, the eventual other side of that's going to be success. So I think putting her in those environments that are going to be more competitive are great. I would also say there's about to be a lot of softball on TV. I have a 10U athlete that I work with. And after every call that we do every 2 weeks, what we do is I give her a game scenario. So I was like, okay, hey, she's a catcher. So I'll say, hey, such and such, let's talk about a scenario of a game. So you're the catcher. Okay, this is a scenario. We have runners on two or runner on two. We have 2 outs, or no, let's go 1 out, and the ball gets hit to left field. What are you doing as a catcher? Like, what is your command to your team? And so her ability to talk back through the game IQ, a lot of our athletes, even at the college level, cannot do that. They question the answer to that question. They question the response to that question. And so what I would advise you to do is put her in situations where she learns the game. So at a higher level. So I would say there's a lot of softball getting ready to happen. Have her watch the game and then have her kind of talk you through, pause the game. Okay, hey, you're playing this position. What's happening next here? What are you doing here? Even at bats, like, all right, we got bases loaded, or no, let's go. We have a runner on one. We're down by 1 run. It's the 6th inning. You're up to bat. What are you doing in the scenario? What are the things that you want to focus on? So one would be, I either want to move the runner, right? Oh no, the main goal is I want to move the runner, right? And so it's like, I don't want to get hit into a double play. So what do I have to do? I'm either going to bunt. I'm either going to hit behind the runner. I'm either going to really try to hit the ball in the gap. I'm also trying to walk. I might try to walk. So if you can help her navigate the decisions that she has to make in those environments, when it's less pressure, then when the pressure comes, she's like, oh, I've actually replayed this in my head, or I've done this in my head. And then when I do that in my head, I'm going to now feel more prepared, which then creates more confidence, right? Because now I'm having better self-talk. So it's a full cycle moment. Antonio, I love that you do that. I knew you was going to say you do that. And that's awesome. So yes, I think that would be my advice for you, Patrick. So thanks for asking that question. I'll go a little bit more in depth here in the group at another time, but thank you guys so much for joining. Every Tuesday night, we are here. We're live. I'm answering the questions, and I want to be a resource as always. I have a new recruiting timeline guide that I'm going to be sharing really, really soon in this group. So be on the lookout for that. And I really appreciate you guys so much for all jumping on. I honestly wouldn't be what it is without you guys and without your questions. So continue to bring them, continue to send them. No question is too little or too small, too big. I'm here to help you guys out. So, all right, y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon. Have a great Thursday. Peace.